question that I am going to pose to you today is 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 JJ McCarthy potentially a weakness for this Michigan football team? Look, and let's say this Michigan 2023 football team, because he has to come back, right? He can't go to the draft. Is
Right.
JJ McCarthy potentially the 2023 weakness for the 2023 Michigan football team?
I won't say. I don't think weakness is the right word to say. He is the weakness. I would say some parts of his game can expose them for sure. I mean, anytime you have a quarterback that is loose with the football, indecisive, uh, it can hurt you. Because as a defense, you could, there's a legitimate game plan that you can come up with that gives you a possible advantage. But to say he is the weakness, no. But there are definitely aspects to his game that can expose their offense, right? Your quarterback's main first job is to protect the football, right? And then secondly is to move to help you move the chains and score touchdowns. But more than anything, they have to help you protect the football. And look, this was part of and maybe guys, we're seeing what's under the hood a little bit more with JJ McCarthy. Maybe this is, and I don't know for sure, but maybe this is why their offense was so handcuffed. Even once he took over initially during the year, because this is something that they saw in practice. That this kid is talented, but when too much is in his hands, he makes some bad decisions, right? Because we were wondering, Des. I know a lot of people were wondering. Look, this kid is talented. He has an arm. He could run. Why does this offense look the same way it did under K McNamara? Why is he just handing the football off 30 times, right? And maybe this is why. Maybe this is just something that he struggles with. That when you put too much in his hands, so it's definitely a chink in the armor, but I won't say it's a weakness. I think he's still talented enough where he brings enough elements to the game where he's a strength to this team. But there are aspects to this game that can hurt the team.
Yeah, and I, to be there are a lot of people who just said no, 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 no. He's not the weakness, and I think I would probably agree with that. But what I would also say is JJ has a streak of hero ball in him
Oh yeah.
that he has got to get rid of. He has got to get rid
He
of that,
almost threw another pick. I mean, dude, there was there was a
dude.
play
He
where
cannot.
he
He
rolled to his left. He rolled to his left, and a defensive lineman, somebody was barreling on him. He just kind of threw it up, right? And I can't remember if it was Roman Wilson. One of the receivers fell down, and the ball was just short, like the corner of the safety for Tishu could have picked it off. It was basically like an arm punt, like it was high in the air. He just threw it up
yes,
for grabs. And I was like, oh my god! Like it's just like he has a little bit too much hero ball and not enough. He doesn't. It's dangerous because he hasn't proven yet that he is proficient enough to carry a team offensively where you can live with his turnovers during the hero ball. There's certain quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield in college, or name a guy who's a gunslinger, and they're going to have occasional turnovers, but they're so freaking good when they're not turning the football over, and you're scoring at such a high rate that you can live with it. JJ hasn't proven that he's proficient enough as a gunslinger where I'm like, okay, he's going to make his occasional mistake, but when he doesn't make a mistake, he's going to be lighting it up, right? And
right.
so that's where it's like, no, we can't have that. So, no,
I mean, I
today,
look at it
yeah.
almost like a Bryce Young situation, right?
Hmm.
Like when Bryce Young throws an interception, and I'm an Alabama fan, so I watch just about every single one of his snaps. I'm like, I can live with every single one. I sent you a text message early today of Jermaine Burton not being on the same page with his quarterback, and it drives me crazy because he's been off all season, right? So if even on that throw that Bryce had, where essentially Bryce threw for like more the corner route or the go ball, and Burton was more up the numbers, whatever. If that turns into an interception, I can live with that because that is our wide receiver being on the wrong page. Today, I mean, What, like, how can we blame any of those two interceptions? How can we
No,
blame any of that on the wide receivers?
no.
The first one was potentially
Now,
a
great play by
bad
that
route,
safety.
but
Now
I
that
think that was actually more JJ staring down his guy.
and the safety read his eyes. That safety, I think it was a safety or it was a nickel. I can't
No, it
remember. I
was a
know
corner.
it was a
If I'm not
corner.
mistaken,
He,
it was
no,
the corner of
dude,
the nickel. Yes,
I
go
think it
ahead.
was I think it was a nickel. He read that play, and part of it, I gotta admit, now it was a bullet. Now I gotta tip my hat. That was a heck of a
It was
read
a
and
good play,
reaction.
but
That was a good
JJ
play.
also,
But
from the time he clapped
he
his
didn't
hand
look him off.
and
He
got
he
the
didn't look him
ball,
off. He did not
he
look him
looked
off.
at the same. He looked
He
at the same guy from start to finish,
yeah, and he
and
threw
that
it.
is a Cardinal. You can't do that. Like, you
You know how you
cannot
know that?
do that.
And you know how you know that, Des, is because if you when you go back, guys, you watch that replay of the play, the nickel who made the interception did not hesitate. Like he literally watched JJ's eyes. It took a beeline to the football, and that would tell you that the quarterback did not, for 1 second, make him pause to think, oh, maybe he's going inside. Like he read JJ all the way, JJ's eyes going out to it that looked like it was a flat route. He took off, took a beeline to the football, made a great play, pick six. That's on your quarterback, right? And then the second one, once again, I mean, dude, it's just he had a terrible day at the worst time of his career. And do I think that, you know, in terms of the kid, should Michigan fans be, pelting him and booing him? I hope not,
No,
because he is talented and he's a big reason why you got here again. But I will say this. Um, how he performs next year in terms of he has to get better. He has to get better at his decision making and his poise, knowing
I mean,
when and not to quote.
I just highlighted this comment for Justin. How do you say JJ did not have a terrible day? He threw two pick sixes.
So I'm kind of
Like, he
confused.
threw. Come
What
on, he
I don't.
almost threw as many touchdowns to TCU as he did to Michigan. Like,
Yeah.
we,
I,
like, what we can't do is just blank. It just forget
tur-
about any of the wrongdoing and be like, oh well, yay, everything is fine. Like, we
no,
can't.
dude,
Like, we
your
can't do that.
quarterback,
We
one of the
can't do
more,
that.
if not the one of, I would say actually the most demoralizing thing that, and one of the most, I think, yeah, I don't know how else to phrase it. Like your quarterback handing a team points, there's just there's no way of getting around that, right? Like he literally handed them 14 points. He handed them 14 points. Like TCU's off. That had nothing to do with the defense. That had nothing to do with special teams. That was JJ making a decision. Football is in his hand. He's throwing it to other team and it's turning into points. That's on him. It's on him.
Lord.
Now, you can state that, and it also uh it doesn't
So
mean that it's totally.
Justin says, well, two pick sixes, but his playmaking is the only reason we were even in this game. So that's why.
Yeah, but
I mean,
yeah, but
Justin, yeah,
both teams don't.
I mean,
But
you
they're not
brush
mutually
past
exclusive,
giving the other team 14 points.
right? They're not mutually exclusive, right? So yeah, I mean JJ did a lot well, but when you are a quarterback and you make turnovers that lead to points, you're literally directly hurting your team,
On
right?
one throw. Like,
Yeah,
this isn't a, we got the ball at midfield. It's 4th and 10. We're not going to get it. So I just throw an arm punt and the other team catches it at the 10-yard line.
no,
Like,
this is direct
I
points.
throw the ball and literally the other team gets 7 points. Like, I mean, look, we can
You can
approach it however we want,
we
but
have to talk about it. You have
right.
when your quarterback has two catastrophic turnovers that lead directly to points, it has to be a main point of conversation. It just does. That's not just a Michigan thing. That's football on every single level. It's huge. It's monumental. It's an emotional swing. It's a point swing. It's everything. It's a total change. It's a total change. Now he is what that it's one in a huge microcosm of mistakes. Mind you, guys, if you just joined us, me and Des have said this was a total collapse. coaching staff and players. But make no mistake about it, a big part of that, as it will be with any particular level of football, is your quarterback having 2 pick sixes. That's just what it is. I
And
wish it was not the
it
case.
would be no different if Donovan Edwards put the ball on the
Two fumbles, right, and that led to a
times
scoop and
and it
score.
turned into 2 scooping scores.
Right, it'll be
We
the
would
same
be
thing.
focusing on
Same thing.
Donovan Edwards
Absolutely,
dropping.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like like guys, like we're not here to play favorites.
No,
That's not what it is. Like and yes, and Marcus brought up coaching. We have talked about coaching. We've been on the stream for about 55 minutes. And yes, we talked a lot about coaching, that they were outmatched. But at the same time, QB1 threw 2 pick sixes. And what I will remind you, we're at inopportune times. The first one was to give TCU the first score of the freaking game, 7-0. And another time was when Michigan was trying to storm back and come back to tie the game up and win the game. And mind you, Michigan did a terrific job of getting back in this game.
those guys fought, man. They
But
continue to
QB
fight.
one, I mean,
And JJ was
listen,
part of that.
I'm not gonna say he failed you today,
No,
because that would be unfair. To say that JJ failed Michigan
everybody
today
failed.
would
Everybody
be
failed.
unfair.
Yeah, everybody failed.
But he could have played better. He had a couple mistakes.
Yeah,
It just is what it is. Guys,
monumental
we
mistakes.
talked about this before the season started. This is big boy football. We are not here. We're not here for feelings. Jim Harbaugh's not here for feelings. Jesse Minter's not here. None of these guys are here for feelings. It is about performance only. That's the only thing that matters. Jim Harbaugh has told you year after year that this is a performance-based business. I think he calls it merit-based business.
Yeah,
So, guys, let's not play these kid games.
I
We
think
are
this
not playing kid
this is
games
one of
here.
those games where honestly, guys, um, I'd be completely honest with every one of you here. We're so thankful that you're with us tonight, honestly, and I hope you guys are having a safe holiday. It will continue so. This is one of those games where really no one needs to be defended. Can I be honest? Like really,
Yeah.
like this is one of those games where none of us fans should be defending anybody. No player, no coach on that team deserves to be defended because they all failed. They all made mistakes. This was a total debacle, a total team collapse. Right now, once we take time after the game and try to get some perspective of the season, then sure, we can try to say, "Well, these guys played well, this team, so on and so forth." But in terms of how we recap this game, no one, no one deserves to be defended. They lost to the inferior team. They blew an opportunity, a grand opportunity, right? They beat themselves more than anything. That's just it, right? So I don't care if you are a JJ Stan, mind you, I didn't say fan, I said Stan. I don't care if you don't know what that is. If you're a JJ fan or whatever, this ain't the moment where you want to try to put up your JJ, hat and say he's my guy. This ain't about that. No one's talking about replacing him for next year. Nothing like that. We're saying we're talking about different phases of the game that were huge impacts of it. But everybody dropped the ball, right? Did I see the defensive line get any pressure on Max Duggan that much today? Nope. In
Nope.
fact, that's probably why they kept trying to throw in little cornerback blitzes and stuff like that to try to help get some pressure. I thought Mozzie Smith, and I think Mozzie Smith had a pretty good, didn't have a good day. There was one play he broke contain. He had an easy sack for, and I think someone pointed it out earlier. He had an easy sack from Max Duggan, but he broke contain, and Max got some extra yards. I didn't see Oki out there today. I
Okay.
didn't Mitch Grant
Yeah.
Oki out there
No.
today. I
No.
didn't see Mike Morris. I know he came back. I didn't. He had a tip pass, I think, earlier in that game, but at some point in that game, but I didn't think he had some kind of great game. DJ Turner played fine, but then he also made that critical mistake in either terms of his pursuit or lack of tackling that led to the Quentin Johnson touchdown. You can go on everybody. Everybody got something on that film that was catastrophic and bad today. Okay, it's just that kind of game. So let's start with the whole getting sensitive on certain guys on this team because no one deserves it today. All right, just need to put that out there. And thank you, Christina Lewis. Don't blame the refs, guys. I can't. Maybe this is just how I am. You can acknowledge. It's okay to acknowledge if you don't agree with a call. But it's really when you say refs cost you a game, you are letting your team off the hook,
Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
especially in a game where your team makes so many self-inflicted mistakes. Yes, that probably should have been a touchdown by Roman Wilson, but we fumbled the ball. We did. It wasn't, for God's sakes, it wasn't that TCU stripped that ball at the goal line. We messed up the handoff.
Right.
We did that. That's Michigan's problem. That's Michigan's wrongdoing. Okay? So I don't want to hear about the reverse call. I just don't.
Dre.
Okay?
So once again, Justin, we can address it again. Yes, Des is sitting here asking if he's a liability. Yes, I am asking a question. Sue me if I if I'm crazy for doing that. Because here's the thing, Dre, and you tell me, what is the bigger question mark going into next year? Do you think it's this Michigan defense? Or do you
No.
think it is this quarterback that we have seen in essentially in these 11, 12, 13 games, basically being one situation in one game and not perform at his best? Which one do you think it is? Am I crazy? Once again, am I nuts for having that question? I could be wrong. Like
But within that, you
I
have to
want
put
to I
in,
want to make
but,
sure
but
I'm
within
clear.
that, Des,
I am not saying JJ is a liability. What I'm saying is he the biggest liability going into next year?
uh, I think it's a fair question because I think within that you have to put in the parameters of what expectations are going to be, right?
Jesus.
The only thing that's left for this team to do at this point is to win a national title, right? They've been climbing and climbing and climbing, right? And they finally have ascended to, it seems like, at top of the Big Ten. I don't care what happens today with Ohio State and Georgia. That doesn't matter to me. Who's won the Big Ten, who's won your conference, who's won the head-to-head the last 2 years is Michigan in terms of them and OSU. Okay, so they've been climbing and climbing, and they finally seem to have gotten on top of that mountain, right? Or at least that level. But the top of the mountain is the national championship. So within that, we're talking about the only thing left for this team to do, and I will believe the only thing that the bigger goal, the only goal for next year would be we need to win a national title. Well, what's the biggest question mark in terms of that when you look at today's game? Well, you can say is your quarterback's play the biggest thing that could hold you back. Well, when you look at today, you're like, yeah, he did a lot good today to help us get in the game, but those turnovers also pretty much put us in a chance where we couldn't win, right? So
I,
I
I
that
I'm going
it's
to
fair
stand
to ask the
on
question.
this until the day that I die. I'm sorry to interrupt you, my brother.
Good.
Uh, Justin says, I love this channel and watch every game, but Des, you're way off tonight. To ask the question, I am not.
Okay,
You
he's not
you
making a
you
statement.
can believe whatever you want to believe, but for me to ask the question, I am not. I'm not off. I however you feel about it, I'm not off to ask that question because we've looked at this Michigan team time and time again, week after week, where we said, man, Blake Corum is terrific. He's performed well. And then Donovan Edwards was down for a little bit. Then he came back. And then Donovan Edwards was terrific. And then Blake Corum was out. And Donovan Edwards still was unreal. We saw him against Ohio State bust off what 270 plus yard runs
Yeah.
for touchdowns, right? And you're trying to tell me that within all of that JJ was still the same exact person, and then that same exact person played football today. You can give me 400 yards if you want, but do you want to give me the yards of the two pick sixes that he threw? Because it's not all created equal, right? It's real not. Yes, Justin, I will respond to it. 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. That is great. but I still notice how you're not putting in the 2 interceptions that he had that also went for touchdowns. He threw for two more touchdowns,
for the
but
team.
those touchdowns went to the other team. But you don't want to address that,
Bad intentional grounding decision by him. He got,
right?
got
Forget
lucky.
about any. No, Dre. Forget about any of the mistakes. The only thing that matters is positive plays, because 400 yards and 3 touchdowns is great, but also 2 pick sixes, one in each half of football, and like you said, the intentional grounding and the
Probably
multiple
and then
times
a
of
fumble,
JJ
then a
holding
strip
the
sack,
ball way too long, especially for a guy who can run.
and the
He
strip
can
sack,
run.
the strip sack that made it, went out of bounds, but you still lost a ton of yards. Probably made it what, 3rd and 20, I think it was 3rd and 15. It was a ton that he did. Even things he got away with, like it's still like he just made really bad decisions, guys. And also, you guys been watching sports, you understand, especially how football works. The quarterback is one of the positions where you have a lot of responsibility, guys, because the ball is literally in your hands, right? So when your quarterback makes catastrophic mistakes, it's going to weigh a lot of times a lot heavier. That's just how it works. Then a lot of things that transpire in the game. That's just how it works. That's not a JJ McCarthy critique. That is a football critique. That's how football works, right? Just like a lot of people are gushing over, oh my God, look at the passing yards and running yardage. You know how you get high about that? Well, I've seen some of you use the words, he led us back in that game. You're right. He did. That's how that quarterback, love and appreciation works, right? Well, it goes the same way reverse. It weighs just as heavy where he makes catastrophic mistakes. So we don't want to. We have never said this was a JJ um, uh, uh, problem, right? Or JJ lost this game, but he was a big factor in how it turned out. But the whole team dropped the ball, and we can say this all day. And it's a bitter pill to swallow. I think it'll behoove Michigan fans to not attack each other. We shouldn't be attacking each other. This is one of those times, guys. Honestly, when a team lays an egg like that, put all your frustration on the team. They're the ones that, in that bitter
Yeah.
taste that I have, that I know a lot of you have, that anger, that irritation. We should be putting that on each other. It should be directed towards the team, right? If you want to have love and have respect and get perspective, there is a time and place for that. And I'm not saying it's not. I said there is a time and place. And probably by Wednesday's show, we'll take some time to do that. But as of now, when you drop the ball the way they did, all the onus should be put on them, right? That's just it. That's it.
Absolutely. Because listen, and here's the last thing I'll say before I address our super chat. Well, actually, let me address the super chat first. Mr. Act Like It says, was Mulling's fumble on JJ or the running back? Looks like it never hit the running back in the gut. What say you? I say yes. It was on JJ. It never looked like it hit the running back in his spot. Go ahead, Dre. I'll toss it to you.
No, it's yeah, I put in more on JJ. Once again, that's another mistake.
Oh my! But God forbid, oh my God, he is without reproach.
He didn't
We
have
can
a
never
he did not have a
criticize
good day today, man.
JJ because he's the golden child.
Yeah,
What I also say is, um, yes, it just is
what
what
the
it
heck?
is,
What the
man. Like
heck happened that last
this is
drive
big
too?
boy football.
Yeah, I mean, what happened that last drive? I mean, how in the world? I've never seen. I mean, we've had a all American center all year. I mean, how in the world on the very last play of the game do you have a missnap? Like, I mean, what is going on here? I know what you hit, and that's where you don't think the game is sped up. I'm like, you just had a false start. Are you guys not going over what the snap count is? Like, I'm like, it was last play, whatever.
But
The chance
honestly,
of them
that
converting
in
was,
that moment, I can understand of like things are getting hurried up. It's
yeah.
not like the normal, like you know what I mean. Like
I know,
I
I
can get it
know.
in that moment, but I don't know, man. To think that your quarterback who threw 2 pick sixes is beyond reproach is nuts and
Yeah,
wild to me. But at the end of the day, like you said, Dre, if you're someone who feels passionately about Michigan football, what you need to understand is the growing pains that you're dealing with right now and what it takes to get to the next level. A lot of it has to deal with you. Like you said, Dre, you need to look at your team. They are the ones with the issues that need to fix them. The coaching staff needs to fix them because you don't get to national championship level by blaming everybody else. The refs have it out for. Listen, nobody wants to hear that. And guess what? Nobody's winning national championships because the refs are on their side.
Yes.
So get over the pity party.
I just
To be quite frank, I love you guys, all 90 that are on our stream, and everyone who tunes into us every single week. But you don't get there by thinking that the refs are on your side or they're not on your side. You get there by executing every single week, and Michigan was very, very close to that this year. I
oh,
will give them a lot of credit. They were super close. They didn't have their best game today, and that sucks
at their
for them.
worst game.
And I'm being very serious about it. It does suck for them that they didn't get a chance to have a bad game in week 2 or week 3, where some of these other teams that are playing in the college football playoff did. That sucks. But when it comes to being a big boy and really, really being a big boy, you gotta pick all the pieces up,
Just stop.
and you get there next week, or next year, and you get back to work. That's what it comes by.
Yeah, I just I don't know, man. I just and granted, we can only go, guys. We can only go by with the few letters you put in those comments, but it's just, you know, for us when guys when we have the floor like we have now, what we're saying is, I think sometimes people hear things like, you know, they don't hear totality what you're trying to say sometimes, and I hope right now you're listening to totality what I'm saying. It's okay to point out when there are missed calls. Missed calls happen in every game. There's no conspiracy for against the University of Michigan. Okay, there's always for every fan base in a football game that's going to feel like they got gypped on a call here or there. That happens. It is up for your team to find out ways to overcome them. And when you have a day like today, especially a game like today, we have so many keyword self-inflicted mistakes. It's not the kind of game where you want to say it's that person's fault. It's that person's fault, right? You do the finger pointing. You have to first look at yourself because you beat yourself more than any of those other factors that happened in that game. You did, right? And it sucks. And we're attacking each other in these comments. When at the end of the day, all the onus needs to be on this program. It really does. It really does. This team had a really good year, but they laid an egg. They just did, man, and it sucks, right? And um, the credibility needs to be put on them more than us, right? This is not the time to try to be defensive. Yeah, it hurts. I'm hurting, right? In terms of this team, right? It's still New Year's Eve. There's a lot of things going on in life, right? But in terms of how you feel as a Michigan fan, it should sting because we let a grand opportunity go. Um, but I mean that's how it goes, guys, and you just have to live with it. And there are time and place for perspective and looking back and say, you know what, that was a good year. Hey, we're what, I don't know, Des, 24-4 and 3, whatever it is, the last 2 seasons. All that can be true, but it doesn't mean that you overlook when your team beat themselves, and that's just the case tonight.
Absolutely. Cool Motif, thank you so much. Says, sorry guys, living in Tuscaloosa has my phone blowing up. We had our chance. Good job, TCU. You guys did a great job this season. Go blue. So I'm assuming he's talking about us. And then Mr. Act Like It says Harbaugh's going to have to have another 2020 offseason, take a deep look, and decide if co-offensive coordinators as an offense is a
I don't
solution.
know. I don't know. I'll say this, Mister Act Like It. Um, you know, there's certain play calls where it's clear that Harbaugh's having a big influence over those play calls. Okay, like it's clearly Jim's identity and Jim's influence, and it's to the point now where since Harbaugh's been here, he's had a influx of different offensive coordinators. Some guys have had the play calling fully themselves. Some guys have been passing game coordinators. Right, he's done like this Cole thing, right? But um, it's clear that he's always been the guy calling the shots. Really, he's the guy with the influence. So I'm not really sure if that would ever be the true solution with bringing in new offensive coordinators, because at the end of the day, it's going to be Jim that's going to give their approval or not, and he's not going to do anything that goes outside the bubble that he likes to live in terms of play calling. He's just not, right. So I don't think that'll ever be the problem. That'll be on Jim. That'll be on Jim. And to be honest with you, I mean, there were some questionable play calls, but a lot of it's just execution today. I mean, that's just it. Once again, pick sixes, fumbles at the goal line. Guys not executing, not being in the right spots defensively, not making sound tackles. That's execution more than anything. Play calling is a factor. Is it questionable? Has it been questionable at times throughout the year on offense? Absolutely. But execution was the biggest problem. It really was.
Absolutely.